getting the nod. Okay, welcome everybody to the October 14th Cross Lake City Council regular meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we got through the first one. First, we got approval for the additions to the,
So moved. A second.
got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Consent calendar. Everybody look it over?
I did, but I'm wondering why 19 and 20 are under consent calendar, not discussed individually. It's a lot of money involved, huh?
That's what we did with all the Eagle construction. They all went on the consent.
You can pull it if you want to talk about it.
You can pull
Yeah, pull it, Eric.
Okay, then let's pull those two.
Pull 19 and 20 out. Okay, other than 19 and 20, everything all right in there? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, got a motion by Schrupp,
Second.
second by Herzog. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Should we hit those two right away?
Sure.
Okay, 19 and 20, they're payment authorizations. One is for High Tech. I'm assuming it's just their first construction draw on the project, huh?
Okay, so this is just the first, the beginning of the
Pay
expenditure.
request number one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it covers dirt work, and I don't know, I kind of looked at it, but
Yeah, they're billing on a percent complete basis.
On a percentage, okay.
I did ask them, Mike, to give you a, I don't know if they have yet or not, but
Then I'll move to approve it. But I just think
You want
it's
to do the other
something,
one?
yeah, and then the other one is Bolton Mink, the wastewater treatment, the final billing on that, final payment. And that, everything is good, and,
I guess my question is actually kind of for Ted on this one.
yes, sir.
Is this finally resolved our issues down there?
Yes, sir.
It has.
Yes, sir.
Then I'm happy. That should be the end of the problems we were having at the sewer. Okay? But we had quite a round with it. I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
it should be talked about.
Yeah, we did, good, okay. So do we have a motion to approve 19 and 20 of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Where are we going into critical issues now? Yeah, C1. Critical issues. Ryan Pesch of the university has come back to us with a sales tax study. Ryan, are you here?
I'm here.
All right, come on up. Tell us what we don't know.
Okay, I don't know, maybe you guys already know all this. I could just show this.
So, I'm Ryan Pesch, I'm an extension educator. So a lot of times you think extension educator, right? 4-H or ag or something, but there's a few of us that work in community development. Kind of, you're talking community development before about housing, so I deal with some of that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I deal with a lot of market analysis in communities. So especially the retail sales from state sales tax data. And here we're talking about the local option sales tax, and that actually uses that same data. So for the last few years, we've been doing these kinds of reports as a lot of local governments are trying to figure out, is this an option that makes sense for us or not? So I just thought I would go over a little bit of the methodology of that, so you are all comfortable understanding about how I did this analysis. I'll give you the main headline of the analysis. It's already in your packets. You're probably like, hey, I've seen it, I've read it, Ryan. But hey, I mean, everyone else here wants to understand how it got done too. And then I'll just have it open for questions. My main purpose here is just to have you comfortable with the data I'm presenting. I just see this as one piece of information that might come into play as you make a decision on the local option sales tax. As a representative of the University of Minnesota, I really don't care if you pass this tax or not or move forward with it. It's really, I had no horse in this game. I am not a resident of the city of Cross Lake. I'm from Otter Tail County. So, So I'll just start with a couple headline points about how we do this, so you understand the methodology, and then I'll give the headline. But so first and foremost, point one is that this is done with state sales tax data. So every year, all your local businesses that have taxable sales report to the Department of Revenue, both what their gross sales are as well as what their taxable sales are. So my main point in doing this kind of analysis is that this is good data. This is not American Community Survey data, some of what we were looking at that past meeting, which can be a little iffier. This is really good data. It's not as always up to date as we'd like. The most recent data that we have is from 2017, but we do have a trend line. For Cross Lake, being that you're a smaller city, I had to request data from the Department of Revenue directly. If this were Brainerd or Baxter, we would have, 20-some different categories that we could look at and do an analysis on. Being that Cross Lake is smaller with just fewer businesses, we're only able to get data for a select number of categories or subcategories, but we do have the total amount of taxable sales for the whole community as well. And so the way we do this is that it's pretty simple math. I do a calculation with what's called potential sales, where I just take a look at the permanent residents of a community times the per capita sales in any given category. From sales tax data, we know really, really well, how much people spend for every man, woman, and child is spent in taxable sales on, say, building materials, general merchandise, dining, and so forth and so on. I take that, I times the population of the city of Cross Lake. I also use an index of income, which is from the BEA, in order to adjust it a little bit, being that Crow Wing County is a little bit poorer than the state as a whole. And that's how I get a calculation of potential sales. And then I just simply compare that to the actual sales for that were reported by the businesses in the city of Cross Lake. So just as an example, that's kind of what the math looks like. You see here, the actual taxable sales in retail. Again, this is sometimes reported as 12, 13 different subcategories. In this case, because it's a smaller community, we only have retail as a whole. Total actual taxable sales were pushing 38 million in taxable sales. Our potential sales calculation was about 9 million. So there's very, very clear evidence that people are shopping into the community, right? Unless people in Cross Lake spend a heck of a lot more than everybody else in the state of Minnesota, which is kind of unreasonable. And so I just do this analysis across category by category, just to do the math. And so the headline, does that make sense? Okay.
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
though?
please.
If I order concrete from St. Cloud, and they bring it up here and deliver it in Cross Lake, is that part of the taxable sales in Cross Lake? Is that?
No, it would be taxable sales reported by the cement people in St. Cloud.
But I was told contrary to that. I was told that they have a destination charge on any deliveries they make, and it comes to here. So I just wanted to ask you, I'm not disputing that.
No, that's my understanding of the sales tax. There's a funny little thing called use tax, which kind of hurts my own head. Right?
That's different.
But it's such a minor part of this entire story, it's probably not even worth getting into the weeds on.
Okay.
Yeah. So the headline. So this is the headline. A blurry little thing, huh? So conversations about what would a 0.5% sales tax garner, considering the taxable sales in the city of Cross Lake, in consultation with the Department of Revenue, because they do down estimate this. Their estimate is about $240,000 annually could be garnered through, or would be the proceeds for a 0.5 sales tax. My main headline is at about 80.3, based on my calculations, close to 81% of those sales would come from non-residents. Going across category by category is quite clear that there's, just like I showed you in that retail example, very clear evidence that there is a lot of in-shopping into your community, right? And so, that's it. Come on! You want me to keep talking?
Yeah, give us more than that.
Extension educators can talk for a very long time.
How does this compare to other cities? Is this 81% high?
Oh, yeah, this is very high. This is very high. The one that I did before this was Edina, for the city of Edina. That was like 40-odd%. So you have some of these issues where there's a lot of cross-hauling, right? People from a Bloomington shop in Edina, people from Edina shop elsewhere. I do believe that we did an analysis for the county as a whole, which was like 60-odd% for the county as a whole, right? Just because they're just in shopping to Crow Wing County. But this is significantly higher than that. This is the highest one I've done. But that's just where your numbers are, you know, so.
How do you get those numbers?
Just like I explained, just from our state sales tax data. So,
Okay, my store pays sales tax.
Yep.
I have 100 people who come and buy ice cream cones. How do you know that 75 of them are from out of town and 25 of them are from in town?
I don't. But I do know in retail that, let's just say, $12,000 annually is spent by people in retail in the state of Minnesota, right? Just looking at state sales tax data, we know really well how much people spend per person in taxable sales. And so we use that as a benchmark. And so then we do the math for, you know, so if I say, geez, you know, I don't know about ice creams, I can't be so specific in terms of product. I'm just saying, generally speaking, we know pretty well how much people spend on, say, building materials. We know that pretty well in the state, across the state. So if you look at a community and you say, boy, if there's 10,000 people in this community and they're spending like the state average, which is a safe assumption, maybe it's going to add up to like $10 million in sales. Well, if their actual sales from the state Department of Revenue ends up being $20 million, there's very clearly that either the people in that city are spending twice the amount on building materials, or people from outside the community are coming in to buy building materials. And I think most people would agree that the second would probably be the case. And so we just did that category by category here. And you just end up with, again, unless people from Cross Lake spend a lot more on retail, you know, than everybody else in the state, which seems unreasonable. I'm thinking it's from outside folks. Certainly you have the thing here that I have in Otter Tail County, where you have a lot of seasonal residents, right? So when I do a calculation, I'm not assuming a seasonal resident is a permanent resident. So for this analysis, essentially, you know, you can say, oh, it's inflated in that way, but seasonal residents are considered non-residents in this case, right? So, no offense to any seasonal residents, right? I live in Otter Tail County. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to open this up to the public. If anybody's got any questions, now is a good time to ask them.
But they need to come up to the.
Yeah, but you got to come up and identify yourself, but. Come on, Dean, you bet.
I'm Dean Fitch. The issue, I think, that I struggled with this when I saw some similar, is that that number for the amount of purchases expected in Cross Lake is based on the number of permanent residents in Cross Lake. So that's why it looks like the number is so much bigger. Either we're spending a lot more money or outsiders are spending the money. That's where it comes from. So in other words, they take the numbers and they say in the state of Minnesota, people are going to spend so much money per capita on this kind of goods. And they use that number against our permanent resident base. And so that's why the numbers look as they do. It has everything to do with the fact that people are coming in from the outside, or, as is said, our people are spending more than is normal, which is not probable. Okay? I don't know if that adds or detracts.
Thanks, Dean. Anybody else have any questions for Ryan on this?
If I could.
Sure.
When we went and talked with another city, one of the things that they said is if somebody sold from outside of Cross Lake, let's say a fireplace, to a resident that was having one put in, and they delivered and installed it, that they were actually liable for the tax to Cross Lake. Is that correct to your knowledge, or?
I mean, that's correct to my knowledge, yeah. I mean, all those questions, you know, it gets a little bit of a sticky wicket if you've gone on the Department of Revenue site, right? Individual businesses are dealing with this stuff all the time. I kind of help manage a grocery store in Detroit Lakes, and frankly, we're always going in there because we have all these product questions. There are many, many products and many, many services. It's really up to that individual business to figure out, am I liable for this tax or not? And I think most businesses are constantly kind of referring back to the Department of Revenue to figure this out, but that'd be my understanding without.
My second question is, can you determine large item purchases from the data you have?
No,
In other words, somebody came in and bought a $200,000 whatever.
no, you can't tell.
You can't?
No.
Okay.
It all gets aggregated by category.
Okay.
Yep.
So is it possible that if we enacted this tomorrow, which we can't, that instead of 248 a year, we'd get 200?
If we put a,
I mean, how, are you plus or minus
No,
any?
we,
What's your range on what you think really would happen if we did this?
well, in talking to the Department of Revenue and talking to their analysts who came up with that number of 240, they tell me they sandbag the number because the last thing they want to do is tell local government officials a rosy number.
Okay?
So I take that as they're being conservative on what they feel would be taken in with the local option sales tax at 0.5%.
And I had one other question. I gave you guys a copy of some data on cities or entities in the state that have this local sales tax, and I counted 35 various entities, and 27 have 0.5%, and I'm wondering, why didn't they go for 1% or 1.5%? It's almost 80%. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
I think the rationale is to stay within the range of neighboring communities. So there's some analysis in the back in terms of those communities that have done a 0.5% sales tax, in terms of, it didn't show a great impact in terms of their total sales going down, but you don't want to be the sore thumb sticking
Right.
far enough away from your other neighboring communities, which actually might influence somebody's purchasing decisions more, right? So I think that's a rationale. You had something?
You just answered, Pat Netco, you just answered my one question. The data for the cities who have done the 0.5% sales tax, how has it affected their businesses? Back to what Aaron was saying about somebody buys a fireplace in a different town and they come here and install it and deliver it to me, whatever town the guy's from is going to get the sales tax for the fireplace, not Cross Lake, because it's not sold in Cross Lake. He's installing it in Cross Lake. So if I sell someone a painting and I deliver it to their house in a different town and hang it on their wall, I'm paying the sales tax from Cross Lake, not paying sales tax in a different town of where I hung it on the wall.
I think it's a quirk in the law, Pat, where it allows for that, but I'm not aware of anybody collecting it. It's a self-telling, I sold this in here and I owe you $10. Who's gonna do it?
Not me.
Wow.
See, in my scenario with the concrete truck delivered, that's a little different because they're delivering it to a town where I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. I wanted to ask the question. But
Well, I would be very curious to see some of the data of how the increased sales tax has affected different types of businesses. When we're talking from CNC Boat Works, who sells $200,000 boats or whatever, I'm just throwing a number out there, I have no idea, to someone who sells a $3 ice cream cone. So how has it affected their businesses overall? And are people going to go to different towns close by because they don't have to pay that extra sales tax?
well, I believe on larger purchases, you could put a cap on it. so you don't have to charge the full tax on the full amount. Do you know anything about, do you know question?
know.
Nothing? You stay out of that, huh?
I'm the bean counter that tries to figure out whether this, who's paying the tax.
Right.
You guys keep asking me questions like I'm a tax attorney, but those are not, I'm not.
So we need to get some questions answered
Yeah.
from somebody else.
But I would agree with your statement that if I bought a furnace, I bought a stove in Baxter, I'm going to pay that tax in Baxter. I was sort of thinking you were asking the question that, however, if I were a Cross Lake installer, like that's my business. I'm like Fireplace Installers Inc. or something. I'm based here in a Cross Lake. I have it might be a separate bill. My service is billed. There would be a tax. I would be responsible for a tax as a service operator if that's a taxable sale, right? So,
It just seemed odd to me. It was an odd thing that got put out to us, and it just didn't make sense.
yeah. I mean, some of your question about the cement truck thing, this is part of the reason that we asked for the estimate of the tax from the Department of Revenue, in large part because I can't see their database. I can see the data they give me and publish. There are these instances where you might have say our cement company based in St. Cloud, and they have massive sale. They own 6 plants that are across 6 counties, right? They don't really want something that big where all those sales all come back to St. Cloud. They instead want to split those out to the counties in which they're operating, right? Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, but
so,
I
so
heard-
the Department of
what I
Revenue
was
tries to
told
deal with that.
Specifically, if it was delivered to a site, that's where they pay the tax. And I don't know how that's tracked,
I don't know.
but we'll follow up on that
Yeah.
somehow. Be
Yeah.
nice to know.
But this is that part, just because you were asking about it, it's in your packet regarding just, again, not at an individual business category as was requested, but the change at a community level to those that had changed in that shaded area between 2011 and 2013. These are communities that have recently enacted a half-a-cent sales tax. Again, a lot of them are regional centers, which is a little bit different than a smaller community. But, I mean, just looking at their sales in aggregate, their taxable sales in aggregate, in the years after they enacted that tax, there wasn't any kind of discernible change in the trend line. You know what I'm saying? Again, that's at the community level. That isn't saying that it had a change for building materials versus dining versus something else. That's just the big picture in terms of the change.
So currently, right now, you're working, did you say, on 37 cities that are applying for this?
No, I think he said that were 37 that you had counted up.
In the report that you guys got a copy, there's 35 cities or entities that have a sales tax,
Current.
There you go.
Yeah.
and 27 of them had a 0.5% or less. Walker was at 1.5%. So I was just trying to find out if you said 1.5, maybe, because it has to go through the state.
Yeah.
They're going to go on 1.5. That's kind of,
Well, I don't even know, there's a
Pushing.
cap on it someplace, but,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I've been working with maybe 8 communities across the calendar year.
But
That we've
if you
done the
look at
analysis
this
for.
report, the reason that you guys got caught, if you look at it here, you have to really have a very good explanation of what you're using the money for.
Yeah.
And so we've started that process, but we really have to, if we're going to move ahead with this, you really have to nail it down. Not just for next month or next year, it's got to be for a long time.
Does anybody else in the audience have any questions? Otherwise, we're going to cut Ryan loose.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank you.
What do you got?
What's the action for? Is that to approve it tonight or what?
Well, I don't think we're going to approve it tonight. We're
Well,
not-
you wouldn't be approving the sales tax tonight, maybe if I could have a minute to talk about
Sure,
process.
absolutely.
At this point, what you could do is to go ahead and direct staff to take the next steps and come back with a recommendation. And what that might look like would be to say, okay, how does this work? Well, first we have to have a resolution saying we want to go forward with potentially implementing a local option sales tax. That would start the ball rolling, and we would ask council to go ahead and contact our legislative representative in the House, which is Josh Heinzman, because he would need to write a bill or support a bill to bring it through the House of Representatives at the state. We would need to do that prior to January 31st of 2020. Now, keep in mind, we already have a capital plan put in place. Staff has spent quite a bit of time last summer and into this fall in developing a long-range capital plan. In some instances, it goes out to 2037. So what we could do is at our next budget meeting, we could identify those projects that you wish to have supported in some effort by sales tax. That would get the ball rolling. But keep in mind too that the projects you identify, we have to show that there's a regional benefit, how much sales tax we anticipate in collecting, and for how long. Then that money would be used to create the pool of funds to pay for implementation of those projects.
So if we were to put that all toward the sewer bills, is that a regional benefit? Because the water and the I mean, is that
That
an
would
example
be-
of a regional benefit?
Yes, that would be a reason to build your case to show regional benefit. What cities have done is they've used it for municipal buildings, police halls, fire halls, things that the public uses that benefits everyone, including sewers and roads and things like that. So you could use it to offset the city's cost of any non-assessed portion of those projects.
Do pickleball courts fall in that too?
If they're under the general capital plan of a park or a community center, it's possible they could be.
Community centers mentioned a lot.
Is it?
Sewers mentioned a lot. It's all in the column on,
Yeah.
so, roads.
Well, I think I'm going to jump ahead and make a motion to let staff go and take a look at it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. Anybody have anything? Come on up, Jerry.
Jerry Volts, Cross Lake, Moon Beach Trail 37668. My concern was last month, the insurance was brought up, health insurance. Mike said it went up 7.5%. He asked Aaron, or Aaron asked how much was that? Mike goes about $30. That's not right. The insurance went up $153 a month. I don't care what the employee's share went up. That doesn't affect any taxpayers in town here. The real answer would have been 153, not 30. We were misinformed on that. That's it.
Okay, Jerry, thanks. Anybody else? Okay, not see it anyway. We're going to close public forum. The next is a mayor and council members report. First one is email from Doug Morris on the plastic recycling. Do you know anything about this?
I do. He called a couple weeks ago, or a week or so ago, and apparently certain sites around the county are no longer doing recycling. And so he's seen quite a large increase in the materials he's receiving at the Cross Lake roll-off. And so one of the items that he's no longer taking until the market changes, till he has a place to, something to do with it, is plastic. So I asked him, can you inform us so we can have something to the council that we can present to the public on what you're changing?
And what he's saying in here is it's cost prohibitive to do it and throw it in the garbage.
Yep,
That's what he's saying.
that's correct.
So I guess if anybody's got any questions
The
on,
county is still taking it. at
The county is still
level.
taking it at the county.
but there's no
level.
Cross
collection,
Lakes isn't taking it, but you can still go to the county with plastic.
but you have to bring it to the county?
Yes.
There's no
correct.
To
collection.
the airport?
Landfill?
Landfill by the airport.
Yep.
Okay, so,
So it's either take it there or some other place or throw it in the
Well, the
garbage.
local haulers are still taking it.
Yeah.
I was looking some of this up on the web over the last few days, and it turns out plastic recycling is a real pain in the tush, just because they're all different kinds, which parts can be used for a product varies where you are, so it's a real gamish. Number one, then number two is pretty easy, but when you get up to black and opaque things, they can't do that automatically, et cetera. But it'd be really neat if we could come up with some solutions that would be good for the citizens as a longtime plastic recycler and trying to get plastic decreased. The best thing is not to buy it with plastic, but so many things we buy do have plastic in them.
right.
So if people have any other ideas for how we could do it, because I know hauling those metal bins with a little bit of plastic in them, the plastic is not much of the weight, but maybe we can see what options we have as individuals or even as
Can
a
I put you in
community.
charge of looking into that?
Sure, look at it. I've already looked into it a bit, and it's a bit of a gamish, but we'll see what we can do.
All right, otherwise Waste Partners still picks it up, take it down to the, you can,
Oh, you're good.
okay, well. Thanks. Guess that's it, huh? Oh, we got the radiothon, okay, we're done with that, right?
Yes.
The radiothon to end child abuse is coming up, and I just wanted to put it in here to mention to everybody to dig deep and support our kids. This is probably a good way to do it. I think I'm looking December 5th and 6th. They're on the radio. We can't, as a council, we can't donate any money to it, right? Mike, I mean, we can't do that, but just asking the people to watch for it. Alrighty, thank you. We got the appraisal back for the property deep behind Andy's. So what are we gonna do with that? What is that, 5 acres back there? Is that what it is?
4.
Is that what 4?
That was 4 point something.
So, Mr. Anderson from Crosswoods Developed offered that to the city for $275,000. If they had an interest in buying it, the appraisal came back at $250,000. He said he would take $275,000 or what the appraisal is. So, I personally have been kind of criticized by taking tax basis out of the city by thinking about purchasing it. I think I'm going to open this up to the public too, if anybody's got anything to comment on it. I think it'd be a great parking area and park for the city. It's in a great location. Some people think it should be sold and shops built or something there. If anybody from the audience wants to say something, you got to come up. Otherwise, we'll talk about it here. Come on, Larry.
Larry Allen, Cross Lake. Yeah, I think you should buy it. It's a historic little spot. It's not really, in my view, a place where you need more business or more whatever built there. If you could weasel in a parking area, that'd be cool, or park.
But do you think that'd be a good amenity for the city to
Yeah.
have, as a little park right there in town?
You come into town and, it's
The
already.
trees we'd save, yeah.
White pines there, we're already losing white pines because of the weather and all that. And it just should be saved. That's my
Thank you.
my opinion.
Does anybody else have a comment on that? Patty?
Patty Norgard, 37104 Bunkhouse Road, Cross Lake, Minnesota. And I agree with Mr. Allen. And I think in our comprehensive plan and what we've learned over the past 4 years is that green space is, number one, very important for the vitality of a community. And number two, that was one of the things that the residents of Cross Lake asked us to do, was to preserve our green space. And it was one of the spaces in the Minnesota design team that they used either as a park or for another potential opportunity, but all related to our tourism trade and preserving the environment in which we live. So I would definitely support the city purchasing that
Thank you,
piece
Patty.
of property.
I think I should probably add that Crosswoods Development had one stipulation that we put a committee together to develop it as a park, a parking lot, and walking trails. I mean, that's the way that he kind of stipulated it. So there would have to be a group formed to look into what we would agree to do. So. Huh? You'll be on it? We're good. Good. Anybody else?
I guess one of the questions that I have is, if they put in that roundabout that they've talked about off and on, aren't they going to come in and wipe out some of the village over there with that roundabout, some of those buildings?
The old
Where are they
log
gonna
village?
put them?
Well, I don't know. That's rubbing the crystal ball, and I can't do that, but yep. Come on.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is just, it's in kind of a critical area, and we're kind of preserving a little corner there if we do this.
I'd like to see it, but I'd like to hear what CJ has to say about it.
TJ?
Yeah, TJ, I'm sorry.
Do you have any comments on it now, TJ, before we may make a motion here?
Because you've already got the pickleball thing going, and you've got, what is it, South Park?
Yeah, South Bay, my biggest worry would be money and what we would eventually put in there. Whether it be just a basic couple benches, walking trail, and then a parking lot, or if we expand it to something more.
Well,
that's something that we'd have to discuss. But money is the big concern, because in a little bit I will be discussing our plan to possibly use some of our park dedication money, and then South Bay Park, that would be pulling from park dedication as well. So we just have to be careful with what kind of size or park that we're talking about. And if you put together a committee
Personally, I think that, that phone company money, this is something that we're giving the city forever, so it's to me, that would, if we got to look for a place to get money, that might be a spot. I think if we agree to this offer with the Crosswoods Development, it probably wouldn't be done until the parking and park was decided upon. I mean, that's the next step, is to decide what we're going to do before the sale. I'm anticipating that's the way to go.
And I'm not sure what the stipulation was. Was it 2 years or 3 years that this park had to be developed in the agreement?
Oh, there might have been a 2-year deal on it, yeah.
Okay. And that's something we have to look at too. 'Cause that's pretty quick with everything else going on.
My thoughts would be that it might be nice to have, but is this in the needs or is it in the wants department? And if it's in the needs department, that pushes it a higher priority to me than if it's on a wants department with everything else we've got happening.
Depending on what happens, it could be a need. And it's always an asset, and if we wanted to get rid of it sometime, we could. I mean, until we do something, it's there, so. Thank you, TJ.
I think what I'd like to see is, $250 is today's cost, but it isn't going to be $250 finished. And we don't even know, it's going to cost money to make it into whatever we want. And I'd like to have some idea of what is it that we're going to do, and have the engineering firm decide how much money that might be.
Well,
'Cause
so
it could
we
be
would-
$500,000 here.
Easily.
Could be 2x times what we're paying for it now, so, and I don't know that we're ready to do this with everything else we're spending right now, so I'd kind of look back at the current owner and find out if he can allow more time.
What is the time frame on this?
It's that, I mean, there's two ways to go about it in my mind. You could either make an offer contingent on agreeing on the plan, which would also probably have a dollar figure assigned to it before you closed, or just communicate to them that we're not ready and start working on that plan before you'd ever make an offer. Both work, whatever, or do neither and say we don't want it. In fact, it's a want, not a need. That's a policy decision. But if you want to do it, it's that you structure one of those two ways.
Right. Well, the other thing that came up is that I've been sitting in on we have a pedestrian and a parking study that's been done with the county and the city and the Loon Center. And they did a study back on the 4th of July weekend and had a drone flying around. They had cameras at all the major intersections. They had engineers on the corners. And they came back and they essentially said that the parking situation, there's plenty of parking in Town Square in the middle of the day, and only at peak hours is there an issue. So that tells me that we're buying something that maybe we don't need right now. And that study is supposed to be done here, I believe, by the end of the year, so.
Okay, well, that's good. My feeling is that I don't think we should let it go, but I don't think we should just jump into it either. I think we should relay to Mr. Anderson that we'd like to look and see how in-depth the parking lot and the park is going to be and what the cost is. And if maybe there's a cost share on it.
And if we want to discuss a park, I think it might be a good idea to update our park master plan, because then we can find out where this would fit into our plan based on a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and it would directly tie into the local sales tax and what we would need on the park side for to help fund some of these projects.
Yeah.
Just to have something put on paper instead of these projects coming out of thin air and then we have to find out how to pay for them, so.
I think Mr. Anderson's out of town for the winter, so probably nothing would happen until spring. Because I think he wants to be involved in it. Have you talked to him, Brett, at all?
No.
So it sounds like we've got some interest. If it doesn't cost too much, is that right? Or what are we saying? Depending on the extent of the parking in park? It could be something that could be staged in, too, over years. It doesn't all have to be done at one time. But I guess the big question is, how much is the whole package going to cost? Is that right?
Yep, yep.
And then your want and need.
You can put a group together to study it and take a look at it before we say yes.
Okay, is it okay if I call up Mr. Anderson and talk to him about it and see what kind of a group he wants to put together and how involved he wants to be?
Well, it seems like a motion with the majority vote that the group as a majority is in this project, depending on the cost or after more detail. I think that's the motion you'd need before you'd get going on committees and more discussions with the landowner.
Okay.
And then you have a majority that's not a vote to purchase, but it's a vote to purchase if all the numbers come in favorably. And then there's more time investment, and that also implies it's worth staff time and some potential
We've got some
money
interest.
to work on the
Yeah.
study,
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
And that's for you to call Jim?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's just an opinion. Yeah,
What's
or,
the motion? Can you
well,
I thought one suggestion would be, it involves calling the landowner, and I think he's part of that committee, but it's calling the landowner and also forming a committee to come up with a plan and a cost to come back to council, is what I think I'm hearing.
yeah,
For
so
anyone who
whoever
agrees, yeah.
makes the call, I mean, I'd certainly make it, but if you want to make it, if you guys don't care, I'll make it, but
So what are you going to do on the call?
just ask him if he wants to be involved. The city has got some interest, but we want to pursue it and see.
Why wouldn't we have Mike do it?
Mike do it? Yeah,
can do
okay,
that, yeah.
okay. Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Motion clear enough, Char?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We have got a EDA resignation, huh? So I've got to accept a resignation from Joe Smith from the EDA and alternate John Gunstead. Do we do this all in one thing, Shar?
You don't want-
And then we're going to make a recommendation for appointments to the EDA of James Funk to fill Joe Smith's and Wallace Johnson as an alternate.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Update on City Hall project, we don't really have anything. Other than they're putting the foundation in, the rain's not speeding anything up.
I thought you wanted to talk about postponing the road.
Yeah, and the sewer project, we're gonna postpone till spring. It's just got to be too expensive at the last minute to try to get somebody in there to do it. So we're gonna put it out for bids January, February, and hopefully do it in April with a friendlier price.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so. Other than that, it's going slow because of the weather, but hopefully they'll get it backfilled before it freezes. Okay, Mike, city administrator report?
Okay, the first item for your review is a resolution regarding unpaid sewer charges. And just for a little background, is every year this time, for those sewer charges that are delinquent, we certify them to the county, so then once the property taxes are paid, or the property changes hand, we get caught up on our delinquent sewer charges. So this time it's $603.20.
This was I put a new copy in.
Yeah, there's a new copy. In fact, we had two that were delinquent. One party came in and paid their assessment prior to certification, and there's one left to go ahead and certify. So if we could get a council action to do that, we'll go ahead and get that done.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The second item we have is a resolution establishing polling places. So we'll have two elections, the 1 and 3. Thank you, Shar. The first one is new for us. We haven't had one for quite a while. It's a presidential nomination primary that'll be held on March 3rd, 2020 in the city of Cross Lake. And that is recommended to be at the Cross Lake Community Center. And that polling place for the second one, for the state primary election on August 11th, 2020, and the state general election on November 3rd, 2020, will be at the new Cross Lake City Hall at 13888 Daggett Bay Road.
Any issues with the city hall not being ready by then?
No.
The mayor promised me it would be ready.
We have a promise from the mayor.
He's on the ball.
All right,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
All right, and the last item I have is a memo from Chief Lohmiller talking about an auto aid agreement, which is real similar to mutual aid. It's just who gets there first. So go ahead, Chip.
So basically, over the past 5 or 6 years, the county and the fire chiefs have been trying to better serve our community by establishing better fire districts and trying to establish auto aid instead of mutual aid. So for example, right now, if we had a call in 50 Lakes, they would call us for mutual aid. An auto aid call would be that they would get called and we would get called same time to respond to the same location at the same time. This benefits the response time and also their insurance. But we're also cleaning up some areas of the districts that are kind of messy. So for example, if you look on the screen, Northgate Lane, can I borrow your pen? So what I'm asking for in this situation is Northgate Lane. Northgate Lane is right here. They drive through our jurisdiction to get to Northgate Lane. Northgate Lane is covered by Cross Lake Fire for the first 10 houses, then 30 houses is 50 Lakes, and then the last 6 houses is Ideal Fire. So it's kind of confusing. Chief Lee and myself responded to a heart incident there this summer that we were called for mutual aid because I think Ideal was on, or 50 Lakes was on their 50 Lakes days, so we responded. We've also responded to some other medicals there, and we're obviously closer to Northgate Lane than 50 Lakes is. If they had a structure fire there, we'd be called for mutual aid anyway. So we're just looking to start a trend in the county to work on auto aid, because there is another spot in our area, right here, down here at Old Bridge Road and Adney Lake Road. This is Mission Township's coverage area. They have to come into Cross Lake, go down 36, down 114 to a call down in this area when we're right here. So my next step after we go through Northgate Lane would be to get this area covered in auto aid so that we better serve the community. And we had a call there this summer as well where they called us for mutual aid for a medical in this area.
So auto aid, Cross Lake would be the first caller?
No, we would be at the same time as the mutual aid.
Okay.
So they'd page Mission Fire and Cross Lake Fire at the same time. So our tones would go off at the same time for that call. Same for anything on Northgate Lane. Sooner or later, it's going to be that way for all calls. Because right now, if we have a structure fire in Cross Lake, before I get out of my garage, I'm calling for Ideal and Mission Fire for mutual aid. It'll soon be, as this grows and we get this acceptance, especially in the northern half of the county, is if they know we have a fire structure on the north side of our jurisdiction, they will call 50 Lakes and Mission on their computer auto aid right when they page us.
So how about paying for the service, Chip? Is there anything there?
No, right now we're under mutual aid agreement already with them, under the Cayuna Range mutual aid agreement, so there is no.
So the residents benefit from it because Cross Lake has got a quicker response and their
Well,
fire rating is better.
Yeah,
and
and
whatever.
the
So-
other departments will be there as well. This is made mainly for fire calls only, and we would get called to that anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So just to show how that Northgate Lane is laid out, if I can find my paperwork, which is really strange on how they set things up in our county. We cover this area up here and all of this, but 50 Lakes covers this. So they drive through our jurisdiction into their jurisdiction. So it doesn't make sense. So we're trying to clean this up throughout the county, not just us. We're going to be doing it throughout the county, and then eventually, hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll be able to do box alarms and auto aid with everybody, but it costs a little bit of money to get it all set up in the computer
So would
system.
you go down into the Ideal portion too?
Yep, so
You'd
first
take
step.
that whole corridor over.
Yep, first step would be this, then when we talk to Ideal, then I'm going to talk to Mission on their area. 50 Lakes is talking to Emily on a couple areas that they have, and this is going to start a trend to make sure that we can serve the community better. So I'm just looking for our agreement.
Good idea.
So I'm just looking for approval to go ahead with auto aid
I
for
make a motion to approve.
that section.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, commission reports. John, you ready?
I think this is his first report as an official employee.
All right. We'll see how he does.
Good evening. I have one item to you from our September Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting. It is a recommendation to approve a preliminary plat out at 11959 Melinda Shores Road in Cross Lake here. Just real quick, this is the overall where it's located. You come out up Melinda Shores. It's this parcel right here. And this is the, what they want to do. 5.9 acres, they're going to leave the original house that's on the property here and create three new lots on Rush Lake. Each of the lots meets all of the requirements of our ordinance. If you approve the preliminary plat, they will have 1 year to come in with the final plat. And the Parks Commission has already put in that they want to accept the park dedication fee, but that'll come with the final plat. So if you have any questions for me, otherwise the surveyor is here also. if you have
What's
any
with the
questions.
driveways, John? Is that one gonna get abandoned, the one that goes to the primary, and then?
This
they'll
one
all-
right here will be abandoned, yes, and then
they'll
this
all
will be the
come off of
main
that.
drive that everybody will have to make driveways off of once they
And
get
and
there.
the second one that's gonna be the one used now, is that existing now, or is it drawn in new?
The one on the top there is already existing.
Okay.
And I believe what will happen is once this gets purchased and people start getting addresses in there, once you get the third address down that road, they'll be required to make that a named road, and then they'll have to change the first two addresses to the new one.
The driveway is kind of on a corner there, but there's no issues with it slow
It's
enough,
existing.
and-
It's there already, so it won't make any difference. They'll eliminate this one right here.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
So I need a motion and to
Also
approve the
move.
preliminary.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, Ted, Public Works.
Good evening.
Hi.
First thing tonight is, and we need some direction on whether to move forward with this petition for adding sewer to Northgate and Brook Street. I brought it to the Public Works Commission, and all of the commissioners thought that we should move forward with it. These people are requesting it. It's up to the council now if you want us to move forward, or what do you want to do? One of the things we have to do is we have to make sure that, help me again, Dave, how many, the benefit, 35% by frontage, when it's a petition project like this? So the engineers would have to take and check on that and make sure that they meet that part of it. And if they do, then we could move forward, but then it's, do you want to do it next year? Do you want to do it the year after?
So we have to spend some money with WSN to
Well, it
figure
would
that
be,
out.
well, no, Bolton Mink is the sewer engineer, so.
Okay.
So do we have any estimates?
Some money.
Yeah, we gotta spend some money. Do we have any estimates for any
No, I just,
preliminary? or-
before I even talk to the engineers, I just want to get your direction, your comfort before I move forward with spending any money or asking anybody for anything.
Well, I think if we get over half the people that want it, I think we should go
No,
for
but
it.
that's not what the policy says.
It's by front footage, that 35.
If it is 35% of the front footage, then you can, it only takes 3/5 vote to do it here.
So we gotta have them go
Verify
ahead
that
and
it's at least
find out.
35. So I
Okay.
would say that, and then I would say the next step is we have to look at what we've done with this long-term capital plan and see where it could fit in. I mean, I don't see that we have to do it next year or the year after, but we just have to figure out where it could go
They would
in
like to
and-
get it sooner than later. That was kind of the direction at Public Works. They kind of said that they would like to see it sooner.
So you're looking for a motion to take the first step, huh?
A notion, or motion, or your direction, whatever you so choose.
Can I add one other thing? So if we haven't determined the 35% by front footage, if they pass that, then maybe we can get a rough order of magnitude of the cost to do this, so that we could figure out where to put it in our plan?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Feasibility study that would have to be done. So
There's-
the normal
there's-
course of the process is that once you validate the petition, then you pass a resolution ordering an engineer or other capable person to prepare a feasibility study. Okay? So
Could-
that will develop the cost estimate for the project.
Well, could this all come into play so that when we put the Daggett Bay Road out for bids in February, we could look at expanding that project and maybe do it at all, or no?
We don't have enough money.
Ted, question for you, related question. Didn't we already have a study done on that back in 2010, 29 timeframe? I mean, it included that portion, but it also
conceptual or was
went
that feasibility
all the way,
study?
went down to Kimball Road.
Let Dave come up, he can remember better.
So back in 2010, the Public Works Commission looked at that next phase of a sewer expansion, including going out Kimball Road out to the townhomes out at the end on the, kind of on the point there. And it included Norway Drive and all of this area that the petitioners have submitted here. And it wasn't a full-blown feasibility study in terms of meeting the Chapter 429 statutes, but it was a look at that next phase and magnitude of cost in 2010.
And you can't pull the 35% off of that? Was
No.
that not done? Yeah.
No. This is a portion of that area that was looked at then.
Just one more comment. Just to be clear, you could still do it without a 30, if they don't verify that percentage. It just requires 4 votes, not 3. So council can still decide, it doesn't really matter, we want this project area. You can still move forward. The petition shows some consensus or support, but you don't need to necessarily verify or limit your study to whatever the petition is. That's a policy council decision, well, / Public Works decision.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, I think we should keep looking at it. And if we're going to put it out to bids, if we could see what it would cost when we're doing the Brook Street one, or the Daggett Bay one.
I don't think we have enough. We've nailed the levy down. We can't be tacking on more.
That's going to have to come up,
It's
in my
going to
mind,
be
it
out
would
a
have
few
to come up a
years.
year from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, but I mean, we should look at it.
So we should have Bolton and Mink give us a proposal on how much it would cost to validate the front footage.
Take these first couple of steps, I think, if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that a motion or just
I'll make
a
that
direction?
motion to have them
Motion?
give us a price, and then we'll
Second.
approve the.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, B in your packet is, I don't know if you guys are all aware of this, but we have currently heat in the Public Works shop is underground cables in the floor. The electric cables have failed, or are failing, and it's not, do we need heat? We have to have heat in there or things are going to freeze up. So we got a price with contingencies, and the county paying 51% of this, of about $44,000 to have these heaters installed, and this is 3 brand-new gas-fired unit heaters in the shop. So I'd need council authorization to, and we do have the money in the budget. Mike and I plan for that for this next year, so.
Isn't that same kind of high price for them? 44, what's that each? 15,000 bucks each?
They're 300,000 BTUs.
Are they? Yeah. Still
They're
seems high
stainless
price.
steel combustion chambers, the county just put these in their shop, and they're extremely happy with what quick recovery,
Okay.
high output.
It's not a
Move.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Next one, this kind of died here a while back, is that property behind the existing treatment plant. Bolton and Mink and myself were working on some things for next year, and one of them is we're talking seriously about our biosolids and what's going to happen there. And one thing that we've identified in the plan is the need for that piece of property to the backside of the treatment plant. So I would like to get back into negotiation, whether it's the attorney or whoever you designate, and try to get that property sold up. We do have some money in the budget that we did for this year that we did set aside, so. I really don't want to get into prices right now because of negotiation, so, but.
So Ted, your question is just to get authorization to go revisit that and try
Yep.
to make a deal?
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea, so I so move.
I'll second
Who's
it.
going to do it? How about Mike?
Mhm.
Mike?
I can do that.
Yep.
You want to have Mike do it?
Yes. Are we going to put any limits or anything on it, or you know what they are, or?
I think I pretty much know from the last time what you're comfortable with and what might not work.
Yeah, okay.
I can bounce that off of Brad. too.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Next one was we got a couple things for
Pine Trail.
Big Pine Trail.
Okay, the Public Works Commission talked about next year's proposed project of Big Pine Trail with following the dam construction
Reconstruction,
project. And in order to get this process going and to bid this project during a favorable time of the year, hopefully February, March, we need to start the process of the assessment, Chapter 429 procedures. So a resolution's been prepared ordering preparation of report on improvement. That would be for your action tonight. This is a city-initiated project, so going forth, it would take 4/5 vote on each action.
Do we know for sure that they're going ahead this winter with the rock dam? I mean, have you heard or talked to anybody,
I
or?
have not heard that or not. As far as I know, they're moving forward, so.
And there's no reason for them to contact you for any reason, they'll just start doing it?
They'll start doing it sometime once we're frozen up, so.
Yeah.
I know there's been some material that's been stockpiled out there. I don't know where it showed up from, but.
So do you need a motion to adopt the resolution? I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item on your agenda is the second step of that process, and that's a proposal to complete the feasibility study that we provided to the city.
Is there any way you can verify and just make sure they're going to fix the rock dam before we do this? I mean,
We can make a phone call.
just make sure that's going ahead?
Yeah, we have the lady's contact information.
Yeah, okay. All right, do we have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to approve the feasibility study. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Oh, boy. Pickleball.
So the next item on the agenda is an update on Manhattan Point Boulevard and CASA 66 Stormwater Project. And Brad and I both attended the hearing on that this morning, condemnation hearing proceeding. And the result of that was that property owner did not object to the public use question. So it's going on to the panel that will determine the compensation value. And next thing is that access to the property was agreed to begin today. So we're proceeding with the geotechnical work and authorizing the geotech to get in there and do some soil borings as soon as possible.
Who's going to physically do the work when you get to go ahead? Is the
It'll
county?
be put out for public bid.
Okay, so is it going to happen this year?
It's not likely that it'll happen this fall, so spring work.
Another one that we'll try to bid in the spring and get the best package we can get.
Maybe we should start our own construction outfit up, huh? Sewer and blacktop? All right.
Ted, you're non-committal on that.
No comment. I got two other little, with your permission, I have two little things. County Road 36. Here, beginning in November, you're going to see that the county has hired somebody to start removing trees on County Road 13 and 36 for their next year's projects. So you're going to start seeing tree removal happening on County Road 36 and 37, that piece that goes by the cemetery. So I'm just letting everybody know that. Chronic waste disease. Huh. We have a map where, it used to be we just drag a deer off in the woods. We have to take them to the landfill, or they have a dumpster behind Emily's Meat Market we have to take them to because they're worried about the spread of the chronic waste. Even hunters, after they're done butchering, are asked to take it to a disposal site. I'll have the map of it on the bulletin board because they're worried about the spread of the chronic waste. So just a little update.
They figure behind Emily Meat is a good place to throw them all.
Well, they actually have a lined dumpster that's back there. You're going to be putting it in.
With a lock on it.
I'm not making it up. Just one little other thing, I'm going to toot my own horn here a little bit. Treatment plant. We just got a bunch of results in for the last 6 months. Our treatment plant is below the detection limits of the labs and the water that it's creating. We're at 99.6% removal.
So why is that?
We're just extremely efficient in what we're doing.
Come on, Ted, tell me the truth.
Oh, we are.
How's the brush plant doing? Ted, how's your leaf and brush weekend work going? Friday, Saturday.
Use is up. So far, we haven't had any issues since that one little incident this summer, and the resident paid his bill, and we got that corrected. But the Friday and Saturday seems to be working out. I haven't had any complaints, or I don't know if Char's heard anymore.
Good.
Sometimes I hear about they'd like it open.
And you've been trying to burn it as we go, right?
Yeah, we're not letting the pile get very big. As we get either rain or snow covered here, we're going to keep it small, so it's not such a big job to take care of.
So the commercial trucks kind of went away, they're not coming in there
I think of
anymore?
all the signs and telling them the camera's there and we can see you, and we can figure it out. It's kind of self-policing itself, so.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, TJ, you're up.
Good evening. Under my staff report, number one, you'll see pickleball. We had a couple breakthroughs here this past month. It was brought to my attention that under my capital outlay, we actually have $60,000 dedicated to the pickleball courts, which drastically changes our plans and what we were talking about previously. So you see this line item budget. You get the breakdown of the cost of 6 pickleball courts, 6 dedicated pickleball courts. And then you see over here to the right by the funding, capital 60, and then donations the 30 that we talked about previously, along with a $5,000 contingency plan. So this, the price drop that you're seeing right here compared to what the last numbers you saw, I got together with some of the pickleball players and we discussed how can we move forward with this project and stay within a reasonable number for the project total cost. So it was brought up after getting an unprecedented quote for the installation of posts and nets along with concrete footings for the courts. That quote just for the posts and nets was $22,800. So we took a peek at that and we got together and we came up with this. Essentially, it's a portable net system, but when you lift the wheels up, it's technically permanent because it is a lot of weight. It's 11 gauge steel, completely fit for outdoor use. So we can look at this and bring them out in the winter and put them away, or bring them out in the summer and put them away in the winter to keep them preserved. So this is an option where we're going to be saving a lot of money if we go down this route.
So the other one was $20,000 for the nets and the post?
$22,800, and the reason it's not just pounding a post in the ground and then moving on. It's a lot of concrete. You have to drill through bituminous. You have to make it's not just a little circle concrete footing. It's 1.5 to 2 feet square, and you have to put the sleeve in. You have to buy the posts, put those in along with the nets. And for six of those was $22,000.
So is this $1,200 per net?
Correct.
Per each?
You have some of
We-
these, not exactly these already, right?
We have 4 of them right now that we use that are not 11 gauge steel that they play on the tennis courts currently. We can use those 4 and just buy 2 right now, see how they work, and then go from there.
Big difference.
But they seem to work all right, the ones you
Oh,
have
yeah.
now?
I
They
talked to the pickleballers, some pickleballers who actually played with these nets down south, and they said they're pretty excellent, so
Well, cool.
it's kind of a breakthrough there.
But so what does that do to the numbers here, though?
Well, we're staying within our budget here with the pickleball courts. We're not pulling anything out of park dedication for pickleball courts anymore. So previously, we talked about pulling 30,000.
Right.
Now, like I said, it was brought to my attention, we have 60,000 in capital. The 30,000 from donation that we have previously talked about throughout the whole planning process. And then I would like to add a $5,000 contingency plan, just because it's a fairly large project and you don't know what's going to happen.
But I thought on the last one, we were pulling 30 out of capital, 30 out of park dedication, and donations were going to be the other 30.
Yes,
Or
and
25.
No, we have 60,000 in the budget that we signed off last fall.
That's in this
60,
year's
and then we were
budget.
going to get another 30 for donations.
But that's in this year's budget, the 60.
No, it was in
2019.
yes, yeah.
we would have to
2019.
shift that over
That's
to
what I was trying to-
2020, yep.
And the PAL Foundation says they'll,
That's why I wasn't understanding where they were. Okay.
the PAL says that they've got 20, or the
We're
donations they've raised of 27,000, and they'll kick it up to 30.
Correct.
So, and you're not doing that this year, are you?
No.
Yeah, so he'll wait.
So why does the price on the cost side says 85,000 and the other one says 95,000?
That's just from the 60, 30, which accumulates to 90, and then I just put that $5,000 contingency plan in there just in case. I don't foresee us using that, but I just wanted to show you that number so you're not surprised if we potentially go over the 85 or the 90.
Didn't we go through this at the Park and Rec meeting though, and wrestled those guys back and forth, and they wanted to put it in? We talked them into taking it out, now it's back in there?
The what?
The contingency or the 5,000 for the nets or
Yeah,
whatever?
we can certainly take that out. It's just a number for the just in case. It's not,
Yeah, but
we're
you
not,
just
we're not
put a
gonna,
number like that and it disappears.
absolutely, and we can take it out.
I would just seen it taken out. I mean, 85 is what we agreed to it, we were gonna spend on it. That's what we agreed at the Park and Rec meeting. So, hold them to it, otherwise it's
Well,
gonna
we-
be 105.
What we have in our budget, 60, and then if the donations go to the 30,000, that's 90,000. So that could be our $5,000.
Can't we take 55 out of the budget that we have in there though and only use that, and we got 5,000 for something else? I mean, can't we work it backwards? Do we have to use it all? I mean, I don't know.
I could try to make it work, yep.
I don't know. I would just soon like to see you do the best you can.
Right.
And not throw extra $5,000 or $10,000 in there. But go ahead, make a motion.
I'll make a motion to go forward.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, moving on to the basketball. So this was, during all these meetings talking about this project, it states in my staff report, in order to keep the project costs down, the option of delaying the basketball court was introduced. The Parks Department no longer believes this to be a sensible option since the overall project costs have decreased. So when we're looking at this pickleball project, we were initially talking about taking 30,000 out of park dedication to get this project done. Now that we're no longer pulling from that source of funding, I've introduced a line item breakdown showing our $10,000 in our capital budget for the, specifically for the basketball court, and we would have to pull 30,000 from park dedication to build a full court basketball, or full basketball court.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, little discussion. Are these prices you got, are they like bid prices from somebody?
Correct, yep.
So you really don't need a 10% contingency on it? I mean, it should be pretty close, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the unforeseen things that I may not have picked up
So
on.
what is the motion for 40,000 bucks for the basketball court?
44, with a contingency in it.
Well, he's got 5,000 bucks left from the other one he just took out.
Yeah, you did.
I'm just trying to make you a little, we're talking about adding up the money.
And and doing this project, it wouldn't just all of a sudden disappear. I'd come back to council and say, hey, something came up.
Just
This is what we kind of
be
put
careful
aside.
and come back and impress us, will you? I mean,
Absolutely.
be careful.
Got to give him a break. He's learning on how.
All right, yeah, well, okay, he just got a lesson. We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Come back and
TJ.
impress us.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, I have a notable update. The library book sale year-end total, the volunteers raised over $5,000, totaling $5,086.14. So big thank you to all the volunteers. That'll go to purchasing a lot of books, our bookshelves that we put up here and there to house our donation books. So big thank you to them.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, TJ.
Okay.
I will say, TJ and I have had a lot of discussion on pickleball and basketball.
God, no kidding.
So, go ahead. You want to talk about the process we went through?
Absolutely. So the process of the park maintenance position, we put out ads, we got applications. Mike and I scored them separately, and then we joined in his office and we talked about our scores, why this individual was higher than what Mike had or vice versa. We picked 4 individuals to interview, and throughout that interview process, one stood out to us, and after all 4 interviews, John, I, and Mike talked about who we thought would best fit our department, and I have a recommendation. The Cross Lake Parks Department is recommending the hiring of Joshua Runksmeyer to fill the vacant park maintenance position. The department is also recommending that Joshua be placed at step 5 of the 2019 union salary schedule, and Mr. Runksmeyer would serve a 6-month probationary period. So that is the recommendation from the Parks Department.
Okay.
What's step 5?
What was step 5 again, TJ? It was around, I think you have that.
I don't have it with me, no.
Step 1 was 1496. Step 9 was 1963, I believe.
Yes, I have it right here.
So it's 16, 7 to whatever.
Was-
No.
No.
1787.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So move.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any other? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. Okay, economic development. Dean, you coming up?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, and all our good friends in Cross Lake. I'm Dean Fitch, President of the Economic Development Team, and I'm here tonight just to give an update on what's going on with us. And it'll be brief, because it's getting late, and I know you're all weary. Does that sound fair?
It's been a long night.
Yeah. Well, you're doing important stuff, so that's why. Okay, start with, we do this each time, but I want to restate our mission statement, because this is what guides what we do. Our purpose is develop and promote economic development and the welfare of the Cross Lake area while protecting the environment. Clear to us through many, many discussions that this is what the public is telling us, this is what you've told us, so we're following that. So tonight I'm going to address 4 topics: regional meeting, comprehensive plan update, small business initiative, and the Cross Lake website. First one is the regional update. We met several months ago with a number of townships and communities around us to see if some of their needs for economic development were similar to ours, whether we had common goals or not, and how we might proceed ahead. Out of that group, some 25 people, we centered in on 4 different areas that we should talk about. One was infrastructure funding, community branding, housing, and then broadband communication. And we had those cities and communities with us: Ideal, Mission, City of Crosby, Jenkins, Pequot Lakes, City of Cross Lake, and some Cross Lakers. Bill Brecken was also there, and our Region 5 representative, Cheryl Lee Hills, was with us. So we discussed it. So each of those 4 people made a presentation. Sheila Haverkamp, who's the executive director of Bladick, talked about funding and how you go about getting funding, how you work with these communities to make these things happen, and that was quite enlightening. The second one was on community branding, and Brady Bustler from WSN was there. He talked about the approach to getting your story told. One of the things that we thought for some time is we have a wonderful story to tell, but not everybody knows about us, and so that's part of what he was addressing. And these other communities felt a need for the same. Then we talked about housing, and Jennifer Bergman was there. She's from HRA, and she talked about a study that they have been doing, which will fit with some of what you heard earlier tonight. They're doing a study countywide that will address housing needs by area, by city, by price point, by type. Numbers of units, when they're needed, how they're needed. And so her study is going to be done near the end of the year, and in the first quarter, she's promised to come back and give us an update. If it happens sooner than the spring, then we'll bring it to you sooner than the spring. But what we hope to learn from that is the last study like that done, the Maxwell study many years ago, talked about the number of housing units by price point and by age grouping. So so many for seniors, so many for young families, et cetera. And we're hoping that that will maybe shed a little light on this whole discussion of what is really needed in housing and where is it needed. Is it necessarily needed here, or is it just needed in the area? And then finally, we talked about broadband communication. Josh Netlin from Cross Lake Communication, Emily talked to us about where broadband communication is going, what's happening. And one of the benefits we have as an economic development team here is that we really have a very up-to-date opportunity. All of the city of Cross Lake is wired, and they're continuing to push out. That was the agreement that you, the council, made when you sold the telephone company, that they would do these things over a certain period of time. And so we asked him to talk about where they're going and how soon they're going to get there and what this looks like over time. So we're continuing to meet. Josh does attend most of our EDA meetings, and he's been a real source of info for us and helpful to us. Follow-up for all of that is we're talking about the spring, looking at the housing study, and then the folks from Region 5 want to come talk to us about what they can do to help in our economic development here. We're at the end of it, because of the economics of Cross Lake, we're probably not as good a candidate for Region 5 money and support as some communities that are less well off. But we're going to follow through on this anyway to see if there are some things that they can help us do better. The next topic then is the comprehensive plan update. You approved this in May 2018. We accepted the responsibility for doing the annual review. We've started to update that process. One of the things that's important that we looked at and are looking at is what's called the implementation plan. And you're not going to be able to see this. I'm sorry. This is really small. But at the bottom of page 54 of the comp plan, it makes a list of certain things that should be done in order to review the comp plan, make sure you're keeping it up to date, making sure it fits with the city budgeting process, make sure that it's established and used in a way that continues to promote the community, but yet meets all the requirements of the city. And then finally, it gets into discussing an annual update process as well as a plan for any changes. And on, again, apologize for this, but on this page, you'll see one of the topics, and it just shows you how it breaks it out. There's a land use topic here, and it talks about how the comp plan should look at land use, how can it look at land use, and this is in your plan, and it is online if you want to look at it, and this is page 56 of that plan. My next topic is a small business initiative. We began a small business initiative last year, and we've been talking about how can we help small business, emerging business, home-based businesses, whatever, grow and become part of our community. One of the things we did, we looked at the Lake Country Journal. It's a periodical every other month, and we've looked at budgeting for, and have budgeted for, a one-year subscription to that. And part of the reason for it, it reaches the people we want to talk to. It has a great reach down into the Twin Cities. It has a lot of stay around, as they say with these kind of journals. They're around for a long time. And very importantly, it's talking to the people that probably own lake property in our areas. And so part of this is to say to them and to reach them and say, couldn't you bring your business here? Some part of it or all of it. And we've had a lot of anecdotal information that says that's a good idea. And we've had so far 3 discussions with 3 companies that may be interested in doing that very thing. Also in the small business update, we've got a new website that we're working in. I'll show that in just a moment. But I want to, in the last 2 points, I want to again thank Cross Lake Communications for assisting us. They've provided both small and large business spaces available for people who are in town or around or want to use that space for a meeting or for activity. And so that's, and it's all wired for video conferencing and the rest. So it's we're trying to make it easy for people who may want to come here, may want to work here, or maybe they're in the area and they need to expand and they need to have a capability that that would come into play. And then a final point is that our marketing rollout for the Small Business Initiative begins in the spring of 2020. Then the last one is our website. Our website's being worked on now, should be ready in the next 2 weeks. We'll connect to the City of Cross Lake, the Chamber of Commerce, Bladick, the Cross Lakers, and all other civic and governmental organizations. And the idea is to develop a series of stories about local businesses, show properties that are available, tell the Cross Lake story so that people who are coming from another place may see something about us. And then finally, go to our website to get more data. And this truly is too small for you to see, but this is a working model of what the website's going to look like. Across the top are a series of keys that you can touch and which will bring you into various parts of it. The 3 boxes in the middle are important. The one on the right is going to be every so often, maybe monthly, every other month, we're going to feature a property in the area that's available for development. And so one of the things that we've learned from Bladick is you need to talk about shovel-ready projects, where they are, who has them, and whatever. Some of these may be listed, some may be, owners may just be saying, hey, you know, if you find someone's interested, I'll talk to them, but we would feature them. The one in the middle is going to focus on businesses in the area, so there'll be a regular continuing article about businesses that are here. The first one's going to be across Lake Communications, talk about who they are, what they do, and why you should come here, and what facilities do they have to add. And then the box on the left is sort of the general story about Cross Lake Communications, Cross Lake, the city, and what's here, all of our wonderful features, and why you should want to come work and play in Cross Lake. And this should be up and running and connected to these other websites in just a bit of time. So with all that, I'm going to stop, and any questions for me? We've had a busy period, a lot going on, but we see, it seems like some of these things are finally getting done, which feels really good. So, questions?
All righty, I don't think, when is it going to be up? When can we look at it?
And within 2 weeks. And I'll get a note out to all of you, and
They need to approve this.
No, what's that?
The ad in the Lake Country Journal.
because you had so much on your agenda tonight, I thought I'd re-get the, I don't have a copy of the final bill for the quarter, or for the
Should we
first
just wait
year.
till next month on it?
So let's just do it next month. I'll bring it back, and then you can vote on it. It is budgeted, it's part of our plan, but unfortunately, I didn't get the revised invoice in time for tonight.
Oh, okay.
What does that say?
$1,800, no, $2,850.
2850? Then you got the revised one. I didn't. Okay, having said that then, thank you for correcting me. I'd like to ask you to approve that invoice.
I'll make a motion to approve the.
All right.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're down to the last public forum, right? Public forum, no action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. Anybody have anything? Oh, Marcia.
Marcia Seibert Volz, Cross Lake. Mayor, Council, I'm here to address the procedural considerations in hiring for the city of Cross Lake. I have no knowledge of the council taking formal action on planning and zoning positions filled. I'd like to know who has the authority to hire and fire. In most cities, the hiring and firing rests exclusively with the city council. However, I know the administration of the hiring process can be delegated, but would assume that the final action would formally be approved by and the appointment would be approved by the city council with the starting wage, the start date, and the benefits offered. I guess I would like to know who manages the hiring process, who has the final authority, how are the applicants reviewed, who interviews, who decides who gets interviewed, do job descriptions have points assigned to them, do you use the state job match? At the August 26th meeting, it was determined by the council to have Mike negotiate, and the council determined to move forward with one applicant. I asked who the applicant was, and both the city clerk and the administrator would not respond to that question. When an applicant is certified to be eligible for appointment or a finalist for a position, it is public data. I'm not questioning the quality of appointments to position, but rather the process. Was there discussion between the council members and approval of the wage offered? There's been no formal action on filling the position. I understand his first report was tonight, but there's been no.
You talking
formal
about planning and
action.
zoning specifically?
Yeah,
or-
planning and zoning, yeah.
This is
And
public
when I had-
forum.
We're going to have to look into it.
Don't you have to take formal action to approve of the filling of the position like you just did for the park and maintenance person? And how do you know what the wage was for planning and zoning positions? Do you know the benefits?
No.
I guess I'm just
But
questioning.
I gotta question it, Marcia, and I will, and figure that
But
out.
it should,
We just can't
that
get
is the
engaged on
process.
public forum, though, we
that
can't.
is the process, though, is to have the council act on it formally at a city council meeting. I
Yeah.
would assume that's generally how it is unless you have a city manager. I guess I just know,
Can
I'm
I
not
just- I know
talking,
this
I'm
isn't
not
right-
talking
This
through.
isn't right to answer the question, but when we hired TJ, it would start at the personnel committee, and it was discussed, and then, we got involved with the council, and the personnel committee interviewed the applicants, and then we had the whole council talk to them. Interview
but I'm
them. So
saying-
it was public. I'm no longer on that committee, but
I'm saying that the planning and zoning, the process, the procedure to hire was not done
not done.
according to your past practices. Then if that's how you did TJ, there was no interviews or no formal action taken. Nothing was brought back to the city council to approve. And I'm not against, by all means, I want it known that I'm not questioning who you hired. That has nothing to do with it. It's the process and how it was handled. And you have not actually formally hired them by the council.
Okay, I'll look into that tomorrow.
I guess,
I'll have some
I guess,
conversation on it.
and I'm not trying to cause trouble. I know I've had over 40 years of administrator, clerk treasurer experience, so I know it should be coming to the city council.
Well, this is my first time being mayor, so I
Yeah,
kind of appreciate
I know
your-
that, but I'm just saying that no one knows, actually, the public, until tonight, probably didn't know. There's been no formal action about who was hired, what the wage was. We don't even know if it's comparable to what you were paying the county for that the county contract, if it compares to what wage you're paying the.
Let me look into it
Presley.
tomorrow, and I'll get back to you, and we will let it be
Well,
known.
you don't need to get back to me, you need to take formal
Yeah,
action
no,
at the next council
I
meeting
stand
then, if
corrected.
nothing else. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, city attorney, Brad, you got anything?
No report.
Anybody else, anything? Gary makes a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, aye?